Today's episode of The Ride is brought to you by Cosequin, the #1 veterinary recommended joint health supplement brand.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Ride Podcast. I'm Michaela.
And I'm Nicole.
And this episode, we are chatting with Crystal McNutt. And if you are a fan of Horse and Rider, then you know Crystal McNutt. We have worked with her in the past. She's been on the cover. Nicole and I have done a lot of stuff with her, as well as other editors with Horse and Rider. So we have a lot of content with her on our website. So if you aren't familiar with her, check out Crystal McNutt on horseandrider.com.
Yeah, Crystal was a really cool interview, not only because she's a female reining trainer, which I feel like we don't have enough of those in the industry, but she also shows Arabians and half Arabians, which is a lot different than what most people probably are used to when they hear reining horse trainer. So it's really cool to learn more about the Arabian breed, and what Crystal really appreciates about them, and how they differ from a quarter horse when it comes to preparing to show them in the reining, but also why they make great reining horses.
Yeah, and I know I learned a lot about the Arabian horse breed when talking to Crystal. So if you know, minimal about the breed, even, this is a great interview to listen to.
Yeah, and speaking of Crystal, not only have we done this podcast with her, but our senior editor, Jenny Forsberg Meyer, she has a blog that she writes every month, and we are taking one of her blog articles that she just finished with Crystal, and we're going to put it in the Horse and Rider Monthly. So if you haven't subscribed to Horse and Rider Monthly, you can go onto our website and learn more about the monthlies. We also have a Trail Rider Monthly. And what we're doing is we're putting any kind of content that we can't fit into the magazine, and we're creating content to go into these monthlies because we want to provide you guys with as much content as possible, even though we only go to print 4 times a year. So if you are a fan of Crystals and want to learn more about her training techniques and just her as a trainer, be sure to check out our November Horse and Rider Monthly because that is the one that it'll be in.
And one key thing to note is that these are absolutely free. They don't cost anything. You just sign up for them and they come directly to your email inbox every single month.
So, in other current events that are happening right now, obviously a lot of the world shows are underway and championship season's getting started. But the APHA World Show just happened. And at the APHA World Show, they actually had an IHSA event for the collegiate riders. So they took 12 riders who are part of the IHSA, and they had an invitational class. And it sounds like it was a lot of fun and it was a big success, and people donated their horses who were at the horse show to use. So these kids had a chance to ride some really cool horses at the world show, which as somebody, I didn't compete in IHSA. I competed in the NCAA, which is now the NCEA, I believe. But so it's a little different because mine was considered a Division I NCAA sport, and then the IHSA is a club sport. So it's a little different when it comes to scholarships and all that. But we kind of have the same caliber of horses, and and the horses are getting better. Now, when I was in college, this was just starting this program, so there wasn't a ton of experience or knowledge about it, and it was kind of being built as I was there. But the horses that you get at the schools are usually either retired or they have injuries or they just weren't good show horses, and there's a reason that they get donated to the school. So when you go to a horse show like the World Show and you have the top horses in the country and you possibly get to ride and show one of them, that's a really cool experience. So it sounds like it was a lot of fun and was really successful. So congrats to the 12 riders that were asked to even be a part of this.
Yeah, that's so exciting to be able to do something like that. And like you said, be able to hop on some of the best horses in the country when that's not always the case that they're able to do. And speaking of some of the best horses in the country and other horse shows going on, we just wrapped up the Arizona Fall Championships in Scottsdale, Arizona. Horse and Rider did coverage of the event, so you can find articles on our website and go on Instagram and go look at takeovers that we did and our highlight features. So that way you can get caught up on everything that happened at the Arizona Fall Championships, which was a lot of fun from the looks of it. We received a lot of photos, and contestants looked like they were having the time of their lives in Arizona despite not being able to go to Ohio this year for the Quarter Horse Congress.
Yeah, like we mentioned earlier. So the Congress was canceled this year, and that always takes place in Ohio. But the Arizona Fall Championship was always going to happen. It just a lot of people have to choose between the Congress or the Fall Championships. Some people do go to both. That's a lot of work, especially considering the AQHA World Show piggybacks off the Congress. So that's a long month and a half for riders, horses, everybody. So most people choose one or the other. So a lot of people who would generally go to the Congress ended up in Arizona this time around. So it was huge. They had some really cool events. I know that Bud Lyon, horse and rider on demand contributor and just a horse and rider regular, he won this really cool ranch riding derby that had a bunch of money added. And then Laurel Denton, who's another horse and rider contributor, also had some really great success in the ranch riding events. And then, as Michaela mentioned earlier, we had some takeovers on our Instagram account, and those girls, there was 2 different days of them, and they're all world champion riders, and so it's just really cool to see what their experience at the horse show was like. And they interviewed some of the people that were there, some of the kids. They interviewed Tim Kimura, who's the man of trail and does all the trail courses there. So yeah, if you didn't get a chance to follow the Instagrams while they were going on, Michaela set up a highlight so that you can check them all out and see what was going on there.
And then some more fun things that are going on with the Horse and Rider brand is the fact that we are doing a lot more videos with your favorite trainers and a lot more disciplines and events to add to our Horse and Rider on demand platform. So, whether you're able to work with a trainer daily or not, this is a great platform that you can sign up for and watch all kinds of videos. I know as a barrel racer, we have barrel racing videos, which are interesting and great to watch, and I love them. But I also love watching our other videos with Brad Barkemeyer and Bud Lyon to learn more about the reining and the cow horse, because those things, those key fundamentals of horsemanship, just apply to everything. And I think it makes me a better barrel racer in the end.
Well, and we're noticing a lot of cow horse barrel racing crossover lately. Ron Rawls is a name that sticks out to me. Is obviously he's a very successful cow horse trainer, but he's been doing a lot of clinics with barrel racers and working with professional barrel racers to help them in the arena. So I think it's really great to get outside of your event and learn from other people to see what fits your horsemanship ability. And yeah, so like Michaela said, we have barrel racing videos, but a lot of our other videos that Brad and Bud have done are just really great horsemanship videos. So even if you don't show, they're going to help you become a better rider, and they're going to teach you how to get your horse to be responsive with your hand and your leg, and just get them to do maneuvers that are going to be helpful, whether you're just trail riding or you have cattle that you have to move from one pasture to another. It's just super helpful. But yeah, I also use them, even though I was there to produce the videos with Brad and Bud. I use their videos all the time to help me in my cow horse journey, because Brad is so great at explaining the cow stuff, to where a beginner like me understands it, because sometimes the cow lingo can get a little confusing because you're not, you don't understand it. And I'm sure the same goes for trail racing or reining or whatever. But Brad has such a great way of breaking down the basics to me and for me to understand. And then I also love, learning from Bud for some of the reining stuff, because I love taking some of the stuff I learned from the reining and putting it into the cow horse in the reined work, especially. Which, I mean, obviously they're similar, but they're different. And I like learning from the reiners to see how they're getting a horse to stop, and then learning from the cow horse guys to see how they're getting a horse to stop. And they're different. So it's really cool to take all those pieces and kind of figure out what works for me.
Yeah, and then we're also adding fitness videos, which I think is a super added bonus because Nicole and I are both really into fitness, and we both have realized how large of a role it has played in our riding after we've, started a routine with fitness. So we are working with Kelly Altschwager, who we have done an episode with on the ride. So if you haven't listened to that, go listen to that and then maybe go watch her fitness videos on Horse and Rider On Demand, because it's just a great addition that, okay, you go out, you ride your horse, and then maybe you come in and watch a fitness video because it's part of the platform. So why not utilize that?
Well, and especially right now with coronavirus going on, I know a lot of people, myself included, have been doing more at home workouts. It just seems to be a safer option right now. And it's kind of become my routine. I used to always go to the gym to work out, but now my routine is kind of shifted to where most of my gym time is spent at my house. So these workouts are fantastic if you are somebody who would prefer to work out at home or at your barn or wherever. But Kelly is amazing. Not only is she a fitness expert, but she rides and shows reiners. She trail rides. She back. Her husband is an outfitter, so she spends a lot of time in the outdoors, and and so she has a really great way of working with riders specifically to make sure that we're staying strong enough to where we're not physically hurting ourselves. I know that like if my legs aren't strong, my knee starts getting pain in it, and so she really helps to keep people strong and in shape and just ready to show or ride or do whatever it is you want to do on a horse.
Yeah, so interested in any of those videos that we talked about, go to ondemand.horseandrider.com and check them out. We offer promos all the time, so you can get them at a discounted rate even and join at a lower cost, or you can subscribe for a yearly membership. We have so many options for you guys.
And right now we're offering a free 7-day trial. So go ahead, sign up. We don't charge your credit card until after the 7th day. So you can kind of learn if this is going to be the right video platform for you. But I think everybody would really love it.
So from here, I think we will jump into this interview with Crystal. Cosequin is the #1 veterinarian recommended joint health supplement brand.
With Cosequin Original, Cosequin Optimized with MSM, Cosequin ASU, and Cosequin ASU Plus, there's a formulated suited for all horses at any stage of life.
Learn more at cosequinequine.com.
That's COSEQUIN equine.com.
When performance matters, choose Cosequin.
Hey guys, today we are here with Crystal McNutt, who you probably are very familiar with because she has been a horse and rider contributor for a long time now. Thank you for joining us today, Crystal.
For having me.
So, you're obviously a reining horse trainer, and we've done a lot of content with you for the reining, but you also work with half Arabians, which I feel like is a really cool thing considering a lot of the reining trainers that we've worked with in the past are just they either work with the quarter horses or the paint horses. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about how you got your start in the reining and how you ended up doing some of the half Arabian stuff and kind of bringing attention to the sport of reining in the Arabian world?
When I was like 3, my dad got me a pony, and they started watching me, and of course I was out of control, so they got me lessons. Long story short, went to the feed store, got me riding lessons. It was with an Arabian trainer. They didn't know anything about they just didn't want me to die. So we started with that, and the lady that I started riding with was really into stock seat equitation or reining seat equitation back in the day, and got me hooked up on the West Coast with a guy named Billy Harris. And so it just evolved that I started as 5 years old riding with him. I was the youngest person to go top 10 in the air stock seat equitation in the late 80s and early 90s. And it just kind of evolved from that. I did a lot of equitation. I did the medal finals. And then when I decided not to go to college, or I went to college for a minute, and when I decided that really wasn't for me, I started training horses, or I went to work with people. And the reining for me was just, I thought it was more fair. You had the judging, the point system, and it wasn't quite as judgy, I should say. But I'd always ridden Arabs, and the Arabs are just something I wanted to do it with. I didn't really know any different. So I love the Arabs. I've ridden Arabs my whole life. And I'm just really lucky where I am in Arizona. I can work with some of the best reining trainers in the country, and I take my half Arabs and get help and try to up the game in the Arabian industry to where we are at least, still kind of have the education. We might not have as athletic of horses, but still have the education and the same thing. So they look like reining horses.
Well, I have to say, I've seen quite a bit of the Arabian reining, and it's amazing. Those horses are killer, and I've seen Andrea Fapani show them. Obviously, I've seen you show them. I mean, there's a lot of people who are, bringing attention to the Arabian reining.
Yeah, and it's really we need people really bad in the Arabs, and we need information, and it's really cool when those guys will take the reins and show up, because it just is a real, I think, feather in our cap as far as the Arabians, that those guys will ride them, because they've ridden the best of the best. So if they'll come over and ride an Arab, and I'm not saying anything about the Arabs, but we've worked really hard to bring reining into the Arabians and make it at least a sport, because before we weren't breeding them to do the reining. They were whatever didn't make it in a different discipline. So so it's cool. I mean, we've got some out of great quarter horse mares. We've got some by great quarter horse stallions now, and it's just really changed the whole game of it.
So what was it about the Arabians that made you stick with them throughout your journey into reining and not transition into just the strict quarter horse or paint industry?
It's what I knew. I knew the Arab people. I knew it's like home. I love the Arabian breed. I like the people. I've known it forever. I grew up in it. So some of that is just it's comfortable. It's my home. So I really like that. And but I also want to challenge myself. So I want to be the best at it. I don't want to just go, oh, okay, okay, this is great. I want to up the game and make them look at these horses like, oh, those are good horses, because that's part of it. And anytime Andrea or Martin or any of those guys have jumped on one of my horses, it's really rewarding when they're like, this is a nice horse, because that's just cool. But no, I stuck with the Arabs. It's my home. It's my place. So.
And I know that sometimes Arabians can get a different rap, and not everybody loves the Arabians. So what is it about them that you love so much, and why you continue to ride them? I know that they can be extremely athletic and great at certain things. So what makes them so great for crossing into the reining?
I think about 15 years ago, they got the futurity going for us for the Arabian and half Arabian, and it had quite a bit of money, and that was a big deal. A bunch of guys got together, and I think for me with the Arabians, it was just making it better. That's what I wanted to kind of evolve. I've watched NRHA, I've watched all that, and I've dabbled in that a little bit, but I've watched and I've always wanted to evolve, and I wanted the Arabians to be thought of as athletes and do it. And I think, for me, I have a very good spot for me. I have a really good base of clients. I have a ton of non-pros, and it's just a place that I'm successful, and I want to ride the best horses and make the best horses. And I have the ability with this breed to do that.
They really are a versatile breed. I know I've recently gone into the cow horse stuff, and I've seen a few Arabian cow horses, and they're super cowy, and they're athletic, and they're fast, and it's really cool to watch.
It's pretty amazing that breed can do so much. I mean, they have the English, they have the Hunter, they have the Western, they have all of it, and so it's pretty cool to see. But I think the breeding over the years has really changed, because I mean, it's you see the half Arabs, and I mean, they really have the characteristics of the saddlebred or the quarter horse or whatever it is, and those are it's just really cool to see that and be at one place and see how different the horses are.
So earlier you kind of mentioned you worked under some trainers as you got into the reining. Who are some of the people that you got your feet in with as you started the reining?
I rode, even though I'm from Texas. My dad shipped me out to the West Coast and rode with quite a few people over there. But as I got my start, I moved out here to actually work for Brett Stone and John Slack, and that was kind of a short because they were transitioning, and I was like 18, so I didn't really know what I was wanting to do. I just wanted to ride and do something. But I have been really, mostly because I'm hard headed, I go get help from a lot of people. Bob Avila, I spend a lot of time with him, Andrea Fapani, Martin Muhlstetter. I mean, and I'm not opposed to asking questions and getting help and just taking it. So that'd probably be the biggest way I've gotten help. I didn't work under a ton of people. I just rode with a lot of people.
Well, and I think that's really important is having horse trainers working with horse trainers, because I think the beauty about the sport is that you are never done learning and there's always something else to learn and always something to help improve. So it's really cool that you have those resources and literally just probably right next door, because Scottsdale, all of you guys are just right down the street from each other.
Oh no, it's great. I mean, I have Bob's 2 blocks from me and Andrea's, I don't know, 5 blocks from me, and Martin's right there too. So I mean, we just kind of and I'm just one of those people. I have learned over the years you can make mistakes, but you go to those places and you make mistakes in front of them, and then they'll help you. If you don't make those mistakes in front of them, and Bob helped me get ready for the half year maturity this year, and he's got different eyes than Andrea has, and that's part of it, and just finding your niche of people that work for you. I used to, when I was younger, I'd get help from a lot of people, and it was a lot of different ideas, and I've now kind of have my own thing, but then I know what works for me now, and so I try to stick to those people because it works for me.
Yeah, well, those people work for you, like those horses work for you because you are a unique person riding a unique style of horse. So, do you have a most memorable horse or a horse that really stands out to you within your career that you think has really pushed you towards the top?
I have had a couple really nice half Arabs. I mean, I've had a lot of really nice half Arabs, but in the last few years, I rode a half Arab that was by Custom Chrome out of an Arab mare, and he's just one of those really special horses. His name's Custom Gale. He's just really just an athlete, and everything he does is just, I mean, he's just cool. He looks like a quarter horse. He's really strong. He's, everything about him, but he's just been a real, I mean, I've won the nationals 3 or 4 times on him. I won the futurity on him. He's just one of those horses you just is special. But he's like 11 now. And then I have a 5-year-old that's by an Arabian stud and then out of a mare named Memorable Affair that I won the futurity on. And he's also just as special, but in a different, they're different horses. He's more new, he's a newer style because he's a little bit younger. So it's interesting to even see that in the half Arabs.
Yeah, well, I know Custom Gale has actually been on the cover of Horse and Rider, so that's really exciting. And then recently, you and I worked together on another article, and he was in there for the bravest horse. And I've learned a lot about him recently, and I agree. He's a cool horse, and I like what you said about the younger horse being a different style because it's interesting to see, as the years go on, what changes and what works for those younger horses as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. No, he's Custom Gale's been very special, and he was probably one of the best horses I've ever trained. And he's just such an athlete. It's so different when you start riding these horses that are bred to do it. For so long I rode stuff that wasn't bred to do it. We just did it and did the best we could and did great. It was just different. And now you start riding stuff that's bred to do it, and wow, it's a whole different ball game. And not all the time does it work when you breed them and you think it's all going to work, but I mean, when you get a few, it changes the game completely.
Speaking of breeding, is there any crosses between the quarter horses and the Arabians that you're really loving right now? I mean, I would imagine that it depends on the mare and the sire, just like anybody else, but are there any that you're really gravitating towards?
There's so many different that there's not really one thing that has worked has been the Hollywood Dunnet crosses. That's been great on the Arabs for years and years and years. Even if you went back in the 90s, that was a really good cross. But now we've got everything from Little Joe Cash to Frozen Enterprise to so I those are just kind of starting to come up. So I don't know yet where we are on that, because we've got some new breeding that even they're doing in the quarter horse stuff. So it's kind of fun to see where they're gonna go, I guess I should say. I mean, we've got some whiskey and diamonds. I've liked all of those so far. Really athletic, really pretty. It's all over. I have a little Joe Cash 4-year-old that's just, he's beautiful. He does all the stuff. So it's kind of everywhere right now. I don't know.
No, that's awesome. And I mean, I'm really into breeding, and I think that that's interesting hearing about them being crossed on the Arabs, because the Arabian breed is something that, growing up I knew about them, but I don't know a ton about the breed. And I mean, I don't know if some of our listeners would feel the same way, but can you describe some of the breed characteristics and what makes them the breed that they are?
You know what most people think when they see an Arab is like a statue, right? They see the pretty face and the high neck and the high tail and the big eyes and big nostrils, right? And the high set neck, because that's what they are. When they started riding Arabians back, bazillion years ago, they were meant to cross the desert. They can last a long time. They have, they are drinkers of the wind type of horses, and that's what most people think an Arab is. But you have different types of Arabs. You have the ones that, the Polish, and you have the Russian, and there's all Crabbit. I mean, there's all these different types of horses. And for the reining, I have found for me the Crabbit and the Polish and the Russian horses are the ones that are a little lower to the ground, little deeper hock, but they're not as big. So they're not crossing. They are crossing, but it's just different for the pleasure because they have the real leggy, longer, bigger horses than I want to ride. But so I mean, I think that's the problem. Is most people that think of an Arab think of a halter horse, and yes, we love a beautiful Arab, no doubt, but that's not really what we're riding. They're different than that. They actually have quite a bit of depth to these horses and bone and feet, and they've been bred over the years to be sturdy horses, but that's not what most people see.
No, I agree with that, because I mean, that's kind of the picture I have in my mind when I think of an Arabian, is kind of the pretty dainty, super small build type of horse, and not when I saw photos of, and I didn't really know that there were so many types of Arabians, but it makes sense. Just like the quarter horses, there are different types of quarter horses and their breedings and stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know, I wish I was better I mean, I've been in Arabs my whole life, but we didn't breed anything. I just my dad traded stuff, traded stuff for me to have a horse, and that's how it went, and he liked the reining, we liked the reining, and that's just kind of how I stayed in that. But, like, I never try to make them not look like an Arab, but we fit them like, I think that's the difference is they've got quite a bit of muscle mass, and I feed them like an athlete, so these horses are strong, and so they don't look spindly. So if you walk through my barn, anybody that's ever walked through can't believe that they're Arabs and half Arabs, most of them. I mean, they're like, wow. I mean, maybe the pretty face or this and that, but I mean, they're fit. It's just what I'm around, the people I'm around and I ride with, that's how their horses are fit. So I want athletes like that, reining horses.
Yeah, I was gonna say when I first joined the brand 5 years ago now or something, we were doing a piece with you, and I at the time did not know that you worked with Arabians. I thought you were just a reining horse trainer, and I saw the photos, and I would have thought they were just quarter horses at first glance, because yeah, they are stocky, they have the muscle on their butt, and like, I mean, they move like the reining horses you would expect to move like yeah, they look like the reining horse that you want to have.
Well, and that's my biggest thing, is not to make it a breed, is to make it a sport, right? And so if that's the breed that I do, you might go, oh, it looks a little different, but it does the stuff, so it doesn't take away from, oh, you ride Arabian reining, but I'm also careful, like with my Arabs, I don't put them in the open derby if I mean, I'm not going to take them somewhere they're not capable of being, some of the ones I've had, what, possibly if in the right situation, would I put them there? But I always want to promote the breed the best I can, and myself, because, let's face it, I want to be good. I don't want to go out there and get beat if I can't, if I can help it. So it's just trying to promote it the best way we can.
Well, and I think especially going to the World Equestrian Games a couple of years ago, it was really cool to see other breeds competing in the reining because there is so much more out there than just the quarter horse or the stock horse that you would think of. I think in particular, it was the Brazilian's Criollo horse that really caught my attention because they don't look like a quarter horse. They've got these tiny little legs, but I mean those things were amazing. They were probably my favorite horses to watch at the World Equestrian Games.
Well, I always tell people a good horse is a good horse. I mean, I can appreciate, a great dressage horse, great hunter jumper, a great, all that stuff, whatever it is you see, a great horse is a great horse. And I think that's the key to most people. And with a breed is just highlighting the best part of what you're doing, and I think that, Arabians get pigeonholed into they're just the pretty horse to look at. And that's what they're, I get it. I've seen them, I mean, they're beautiful, but that's not really what, they're not all about that. There's a bunch of those, but they're not all about that.
Am I wrong, or can Arabians be kind of tricky ones with their minds and how you have to work with them because they might be one to hold the grudge or, be a little bit more sensitive?
Yeah, it's hard because we have set the reining up in the Arabians where we're 4 and 5 year olds, ours are futurity, not 3 year olds. One, they just mature a little later. They're not as big a horse. Two, mentally, they mature a little slower, and you're putting a lot of heat and you're teaching them tricks or maneuvers, and that takes a lot. That they have to have a lot of. I don't think I think Arabs are very, very smart horses. And I think that sometimes they are smarter than physically able at a point. And then that all catches up as they get mature and all that stuff. But they are smart. I will, I will. And they're kind of emotional, but a good emotion if you just take it for what it is. And, I've had great success with them. I have had some of my best friends or my half Arabs that I've messed with because they're just really cool horses. They're into you kind of horses, and not to say the quarter horses aren't. I just haven't had as much experience with those. And I have a quarter horse right now that I love, and just what it is. But they are smart. They yeah. I mean, they're really just a little bit slower maturing than what I could say with the reining horses. What a 2 year old quarter horse does and what a 2 year old Arab does is like two completely different books. I mean, they're just not the same horse. Now, as they get older, they can get close, but they're just not as strong. That is the bottom line with the half Arab. They're just not as strong. So you have to be, you have to do you have to be more conscientious about other things, taking your time in different places. But they're smart. I mean, like teaching an Arab to lead change is like one day most of the time, and you're like, okay, we're on to something else, but they retain a lot of information, and they are very bright horses. And some people would say they would maybe be a little bit quick-minded. I don't think that. I think that's how you address them. Some could be, but I think you could make any horse a little quick-minded. So
Yeah, I was gonna say I've definitely had quick-minded quarter horses. I mean, it's not exclusive to one breed, but I didn't realize that the fraternities were the 4 and 5 year olds for the Arabs, but I kind of love that because I've I've been in this industry a long time, and it's takes a lot on a 3 year old to be ready for those big shows. And those horses that are winning the big shows at 3 are phenomenal athletes, but I think there are a lot of horses that could use that extra year to mature and just learn.
well, and I think there's a lot of a mental game with a trainer preparing 3 year olds. And this is the first year that I've really actually tried to do a 3 year old. Before I thought I was trying to do one. It wasn't quite what I thought. But the mental game of those horses is a complete different. The ones that are really mentally can take it, if they physically can do it, you have a horse that can do it. The ones that falter, you know what, you're smart to listen to them and say, you know what, I don't think it's ready, but also the money, the money in that and the whole deal is a whole different thing. But my thought is, there's only a few people that are winning it. So take your best one and do the best job you can with it. So I get the 3 year old game, but like I said, I have prepared that before and been completely terrible. This year I have one. I have three actually, and it's been a different different process than I've ever done before, because I mean, not only are they doing all the reining, I mean, you're one-handed in the bridle, and I mean, it's just a completely. I was like, wow, we got a lot to do in a very short amount of time here. So, I would say that is the one nice thing with the Arabs is we have a lot longer to put them in. We ride them in the snaffle until they're 5. They we don't show them in the bridle until they're in the open and stuff. So it's just a little bit of a different. So that has been good for me doing the 3-year-old thing this year, is just making me have to execute a little bit quicker, and be a little bit more confident that I've done my job. I think sometimes with the Arabs I can go, oh, I can wait, or I can go back to that, because I have a lot of time. So that's probably the biggest difference I've had, is me kind of, me having to actually step up this year and go, okay, you got to get going. You're going to fall behind.
So with the 3-year-olds that you're working with now, are you planning on taking them to the NRHA fraternity, or what was your game plan with them?
Yep, we're going to go. We're going to go. We're all entered up. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But no, I'm looking forward to it. It's a different adventure for me. It's something I've wanted to do. I have 3 really nice ones. It's the hardest thing, I think, is because of the Arabs. I have been able to win some NRHA money, so I'm actually a level 3 rider. So that's probably the hardest thing, is I had to come in with some pretty good stock, or you might as well not go being a 3. And not to say that the other levels aren't tough, but that's the only downside that I've had with the Arabs doing the NRHA, is because I have been successful. I've won some money, so I sit at that level 3.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that would be yeah, it definitely changes the game plan when you can't rely on the level 1 and the 2. And like you said, the level 1 and the 2, the horses that are winning that are just as talented as the level 4 horses, but it is kind of nice.
And the trainers, because I mean, you've got some $1 million riders that are level 2 riders, which is crazy, but you get that extra level, it sure makes things feel a lot easier. Or at least mentally, you're like, okay, I got 3 chances, not 2, or whatever. And so that's been a little bit of a mind thing for me, but it's really good, because I've really reached out and gotten a lot of help this year and trying to prepare. And I think that the help that I've gotten has helped me mentally be better, and that's helping me with my Arabs too, and preparing, like for the nationals. We have the nationals in a month, and same thing, not only am I preparing for the reining fraternity, I have the nationals before that, and same as people that are doing the world show. So I think it's just balancing, and not treating my Arabs like they're 3-year-old fraternity horses. Not, you just have to be careful what you get on. And I think that's the biggest thing with me with my Arabs is, you get off one, you get on another. They're not the same horse. You ride them independently, and they're good horses for it. So.
Well, and that kind of leads me into a question of, how is the Arabian reining different than the NRHA reining, and what are the major differences? I mean, you kind of touched on the 3 and 4-year-old differences, but overall, for somebody maybe who doesn't know or wants to get involved in the Arab reining.
We have the same stuff. We have the amateur, we have a rookie, we have the intermediate, the limited, all that stuff. They have novice horse, which is basically, hasn't won so many blue ribbons, that kind of thing. We have really tried to model ourselves after the NRHA. Same scoring system, same rules, all that stuff. We just are also run under USEF. So we have that supersedes the NRHA for us. But as far as the reining, and like at the nationals, we have NRHA judges. So, I mean, we're treated the same. And so I give those guys that come and judge us a lot of credit, because they don't just penalize because we're on Arabs. They judge that horse. And I think the one thing that we have done is we've done a good job bringing the Arabs that, judge them for what they are. Don't penalize them because they're an Arab. They might look a little different, but wow, it can actually do reining maneuvers. And that's been my whole thing. Like I said, is to come represent the breed well, and make people go, wow, that's an Arabian, wow, and just like talking to you guys, just because you don't see it, and that's very understandable. I mean, I get what people think of an Arab.
So, what advice would you give somebody who wants to get involved with the Arabians and maybe they're not used to that breed?
I think I think whatever you're going to ride, if it's the Arabians, the paints, the quarters, ride what you want to ride. I mean, I think the thing is like going to a horse trainer. If you were going to say I want to ride reining, they're probably not going to say, oh, well, let's get a half Arab. That's just not, unless you came to me, and then or other Arabian trainers, because that's what we do. I think it just depends. Like if you have an Arabian and you want to see if it could do the working Western, find a trainer. There are tons of trainers out there. You can find them on Facebook and all sorts of places, Arabian working Western trainers, whatever. And, if it's something close by that you want to send your horse somewhere where you can keep an eye on, what it's doing, if it's progressing, if it's this or that, or maybe have a trainer come evaluate it and see what it is. And you never know, somebody might like a half Arab. You just don't know until you open that door. There's plenty of NRHA guys, like you guys said, Andre Fapani and all Bob Avila and Craig Schmersel showed one. Tracer Dilson has. I mean, they've kind of done that. And you know what? I opened that door. I just said, hey, would you mind trying one? We really need people out here showing, and it's been good for our breed to have those people out there doing it. So I mean, I can't really say what the right answer is, but if you think you've got a working Western type horse, don't be afraid to call up one of those guys that you've seen and say, hey, this is what I have. And they may say, nope, I don't want to do that, or I don't have time for it, or let's call Crystal, or let's call so-and-so and see what the best bet is. So I think I wouldn't be afraid to call somebody.
I'm so thankful that you're doing all of this for the breed, and I know it's not you, and there's quite a few people I'm sure that are helping to get this out here, but it's so great that you were able to work with Andrea and Tracer and Bob and get them involved in the sport, and just bring eyes to it for people who, like myself, I spend a lot of time in the NRHA arena, but I hadn't been exposed to a lot of the half Arabian stuff or the Arabian stuff. And but yeah, I mean, it's so cool to see what you're doing to help promote the breed and the reining association. And it's grown a ton within the last, like 15 years.
It really has. I mean, it's just changed. Like I said, the breeding changed and they got more specific. And, probably the best thing I did was I had bought a horse from Andrea, and he said, well, if you have an Arab, I'd love to show one. And he actually showed a purebred for us. And it was my sister's horse, and it worked out perfect. He won. And even if he didn't, just what the Arabians got by him being there and spotlighting, hey, look what these horses are doing, So that's a great thing. And like I said, most of these guys are willing to take a shot at it and see if that works. And it might not be that particular Arabian won't work, but another one will. And I think it's just it's time consuming. So if they have the time to do it, that's kind of the biggest thing. I mean, like I said, with me being right here, it's really nice because I can juggle these horses around a little bit. So like Martin Muhlstetter showed a horse for me last year, and I would just take it over there a couple times a week, and then I'd take it home and ride it. So it was a very good relationship because, we could kind of just work together on that particular horse.
So kind of going off of, we've talked a lot about the Arabians, but we haven't really talked a lot about your training philosophies and how we've talked a little bit about how you've become the trainer you are today by just working with people around you who really fit your, idea. And again, Scottsdale being such a great hub for all of this. But what would you say, like, if you had to kind of explain your training philosophy or just your riding philosophy in a couple of sentences, how would you go about something like that?
I think my biggest thing is I always just rode, even when I was starting out and doing this, I just rode, and I just I didn't really know a whole lot when I got going. And so I just kind of did, if that makes sense. I mean, I know that's like a terrible explanation, but part of my training is, do what that horse is capable of doing. If you can ask a little bit more, great. There are so many things with horse training that, I mean, there's just so many avenues and so many ways. And the biggest thing is believing in what you're doing, I guess would be the best thing. If you're trying to go from point A to point B and you've got a certain way, just because you do it a little bit different than someone else does, doesn't mean you're right or wrong. You just have a different way of doing it. That's why I always say all horse trainers do the same thing, just a little different. And most of what really is the difference in horse trainers is the discipline and the athlete they have. It really, I mean, some people have a whole barn full of Michael Jordans. Some people don't have that, and in their how they're doing it, they do have Michael Jordans. It just totally depends. So I think the biggest thing with horse training is, you kind of find your niche and go with it. And there's a lot of ups and downs, and you just kind of have to take those parts as growing with it. Like someone said the other day, "Well, your program," and I'm like, I don't know that I have a program. I don't really think I just kind of did. I didn't have one particular program. I didn't have one thing. I just rode and tried to make reining horses, and it just kind of evolved. So I don't. That's such a weird way to say it, but that's how it worked for me.
No, that totally makes sense, and I believe that, and I think the learning and doing it all that way is great. But you mentioned ups and downs throughout horse training, which we know is always a thing. But this year is 2020. What have the ups and downs been like with the pandemic and everything else that's going on? Has that affected you and your show schedule or your training or anything like that?
Yeah, well, this has been just such a weird year. We were lucky we had our big Arabian show in February, and of course everybody's like, "Oh, it went off without a hitch, and here we go." And so Sun Circuit happened, and then Cactus was going to happen, and there we went. Like the brakes got hit. So no, I was really lucky. I did not lose any horses. We just rode, and the biggest difference with this is we had no goals. We didn't know where we were going. So all of a sudden, because that is how I train horses, with a goal. So I have this horse. This is my goal to do this, this, and this, whether it's in 2 years or 6 months, whatever. And I think that was the biggest thing, even with my clients, with my assistants, with me. You start losing what your goals are. And being that we do show horses, right, we're like carnies, and we're used to being gone all the time. So now you have all this expendable time, because we're sitting at home. We didn't really shut down. I have an outdoor arena. We closed it down to people for about a week, and then I was just really careful when people came out and rode. um, but I think that was the hardest thing, is we lost our timing. We lost what we were shooting for. And so, not that anything really got behind, but maybe me mentally got behind. Like, oh, wow, now I have 7 horse shows in a row. And so that's been a little bit tricky to get. We started we had one reining in May or June, and then we went in July to an Arabian show. And then, so it's just slowly been going. We had a show in August, and then we went to Vegas, and now I've got another show next week. But now it's like we went from nothing for 4 months to the reigning futurity, our nationals, Best of the West, Vegas, and the fall festival that's here, our fall futurity thing that's here right now. And so it's just been from nothing to 100%.
Yeah, the schedule is pretty insane this year. I know, with everything being like either rescheduled, dates changed, locations changed. I mean, it's like I feel for the trainers that were not doing anything for the first 3 months, and now they're just on the road every weekend trying to get ready. And we're going into the busiest season.
Exactly. And I said all along, I was like, I would think that um, most of these horse shows that are especially the age specific futurities, that kind of stuff, the cow horse futurity, the reining futurity, I was going to see that was going to probably go. I mean, I thought they would try to push for that to happen, just because, man, you lose those 3-year-olds. That's what I said. My luck, I actually have a 3-year-old this year, and they won't have a futurity. But I was like, whatever, he'll be a 4-year-old. That's not fine. He's mine. No big deal. But that was just really interesting. And then, the clients, a few of them have not come back yet, and I think we'll see them, and they've said they'll be back in beginning of 2021. So that's been a little bit different, because my normal show string has changed. And so then I have people that maybe they had horses that were younger or whatever. Now they're going to shows, and my normal show string is not going to shows. So that's been a little bit of a different.
No, that sounds so tricky and trying to figure it all out. I'm so thankful to just be a leisurely competitor during this year, because I'm sure that's so hard on horses too, to really go, especially their first year, go from, just doing casual work and then show after show after show after show towards the end of the year. I mean, if that was like that from the beginning of the year, that would be a little easier on them, but that's got to be hard on their minds on some of them.
Well, I will say the biggest one for me is I was actually entered on Custom Gale in the Run for a Million, and that got postponed 4 times, and then so that horse from November when I entered, we were like preparing. It was schooling and practicing, and I was like, I think he thought, what happened? What are we doing? What are we getting ready for? So finally when that last thing said, hey, we're canceling the Run for a Million, I think he had a month off, because I just was always, it was changing. It was from 1 month, and I was like, okay, get a little bit of time off, and then okay, it's going to be now April, and I was like, oh my gosh, now we're gonna get, okay, now that show moved to May, okay, now that show's disappeared, so we're gonna have the qualifier here. So that was really, I would say, for me, and I said that with that horse when finally they made the decision. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sure he is just like, what has happened this year? Because I was riding a half fair, but I was going to be ready, so we were practicing and schooling and getting ready. So that would be where I saw it the most with a particular horse, was that.
Oh, that makes me so bummed. I was like looking forward to going to the Run for a Million strictly for myself because I didn't want to work. I just wanted to go and watch super cool horses. And like I said earlier, I'm getting involved in the cow horse. And so I'm like, I was so excited to see reining and cow horse all in one weekend. And I would have loved to see you show Custom Gale, not only because I've written about him a couple of times and I've talked to the owners, I've talked to you, and so it'd be really cool to see him in person, but it would have just been really fun to see you compete, especially as a female in a very male dominated sport. I always love seeing the women in events like the Run for a Million. So hopefully next year, is that still a goal, or is
I'd love to do it. I mean, part of me is like, I want to do it, and part of me is like, no, I don't want to do it. So but just preparing. Anytime you're going to up your game and you can prepare with and ride with those type of horse trainers and showmen, it's only going to make you better. So my thought was, I'm a woman, I want to do it. I have this really cool half air with a different breed, so I have a whole breed behind me, and let's go try to do it. What's at least put a good showing and let people see a great horse. That was my thing. Can I go win it? That'd be really hard, but I would sure give it a go and probably have a great time doing it. Maybe not, but I would afterwards have a great time.
Well, yeah, just the experience of being able to go would just be like a once in a lifetime, so cool thing to be able to do. And then, like Nicole said, being a woman and being a woman on a half Arab just to showcase it all, literally.
Yeah.
So do you have any other future goals and plans? What does it look like for you and the Arabian breed as you go forward?
I want to keep doing the futurity stuff and making nice horses and young horses that go on and become nice amateur horses. That's really what my whole deal is. That every horse I probably ride will end up being an amateur horse, and I'm cool with that because that's what it's all about for me. And just putting good horses out there, and like I said, representing the breed and me getting better, and just doing it. I don't know. I don't, I really can't. It's hard because every year I'm like, oh, I want to do this a couple more years, then I'll be done. And I don't know. I don't have anything else to do, so I might as well just keep doing it.
you and literally every other horse trainer that
We don't. I think it's just really terrible. We really have nothing else to do. So
no, but
yeah.
I really appreciate you saying that, you work with a lot of horses that go on to be amateur non-pro horses, because I think we as a general sport, not just reining specific or Arabs or quarter horses or whatever, I think we forget about the non-pros sometimes. So I love being able to talk about that and just, remind people that, like, the non-pros are the ones that are helping us grow this industry and have all these cool horses. And if you can have a good non-pro horse, I think that's pretty important.
Yeah, I mean, that's been my core of my business is the non-pros. I love to have an open horse here and there, but I haven't really. And I've learned how to either share the horses with them, or like I said, I ride them as futurity horses and then they go on, and there's nothing more, makes me happier than to see a horse that I've trained that we did good in the futurity and they've gone on and done great. So, that's been a really fun, journey. And most of the horses in my barn, we've trained. Very, very few of them have we gone and bought, so we've trained them from little guys up, and that's been, pretty cool, and just the whole journey. But most for me is, that in the end, these will be nice non-pro horses, because, that's then they've got somewhere to be, right? They've got a purpose. Yeah, most horses I get aren't good. And, there's just not enough years and years of big shows with tons of money like the NRHA, so it's great those guys get those horses, and that's fabulous. And what an awesome, those are great horses. But my deal is just a little bit different. I make a really good living with my non-pros, and that's a good place for me. I like to coach, so it works out.
Yeah, and I mean, like Nicole said, the non-pros and the amateurs make up so much of the industry that it's great to have horses that are going to them. And I think that you are in such a niche place with your half Arabs and quarter horses that those people that really are seeking it out are probably, a lot of amateurs and non-pros, and they want those horses and they want to go have fun and be successful. And I think being able to train a horse like that is something that's, really great. And those are good goals to have as a horse trainer, is to help the people in the industry and not just help everybody at the top.
No, because actually the amateurs is what actually keeps us in business, because they are I always say that people forget about the little people, and it's not always about the big guys all the time. So it's good. That's what you got to do sometimes.
Totally. So if anybody wants to follow along to see how you do at the fraternity this year, or just maybe get in touch with you to learn more about how they can get involved with reining, or the Arabian Association, where can people get a hold of you or see you online?
Yeah, nowhere. No, I'm just kidding. Probably I am not very good at all that stuff, because I'm kind of not really good about promoting myself at all. So not really anywhere, honestly. There's a Facebook page and there's some stuff like that, but I just don't promote myself very good. I should do more and do more for women and reining and stuff like that. But I'm a little bit, I just don't think anybody would call me. So I think I'm just kind of that person.
You're busy training horses. I get it.
Horses, and I'm just not. I'm not real confident, which is a terrible thing. But I'm really a very kind of shy, not confident person. So,
well, we're here to help promote you, because we think that you are super fantastic, Crystal, and you should be confident because you do great things, and we love you at Horse and Rider. So, and our audience really adores you. So, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. I appreciate you guys calling me and helping me figure out how to get this going. So.
Thank you, Cosequin, for bringing us this episode of The Ride.
Thank you guys for tuning into The Ride podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and please be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
Follow Horse and Rider Magazine on social media and find us at horseandrider.com. If you guys have any questions or comments, please be sure to hit us up at horseandrider@aimmedia.com. We want to hear from you guys.
And if you like what you're listening to, be sure to leave us a review on iTunes.
How many stars, Michaela?
5 stars, please.